I think last week also we last week for the class we had read a little bit about the Satipat version of the four foundation of mindfulness text. Okay, I also need to just stress certain thing again. Even though the four foundation of mindfulness is a very important text and it's been illuminated actually by any tradition. So a lot of people, if they are not well read the materials, they always believe that the four foundation of mindfulness is maybe more like Hinayana Buddhism, so-called is small vehicle Buddhism, or they also perhaps even believe that that is only practice for the small vehicle Buddhism. But if you are well read it, even in Tentai school, if they said very clearly, if you want to go for liberation, you definitely have to practice the four foundation of mindfulness. Even though a lot of time, perhaps mostly for lay people or whatever, but they might be more emphasis on the perfections, because that is one of the way that it's not for a serious practitioner, but it's for people who really want to get married, to have a better life in a way. But for liberation's sake, the four foundations of mindfulness is commonly agreed. I cannot only talk about the Tibetan Buddhism because I never really read through, even though they also have the similar thing, but I cannot definitely talk clear about that at the moment. But it's for sure in the Chinese sources, either in any schools, when they talk about the liberation, there's no way that you'll be away, excluded the four foundations of mindfulness as the subject of the topic. I know that in general, people who practice Buddhism, because they are so limited their sources, so they might have a different version of saying, but there's a lot of proof about that already. Okay, so actually some of the four foundations of mindfulness in Chinese that been taught by the so-called Mahayana masters, even some are much complicated than this system. Okay. And that's one thing we need to know. It's not study the four foundations of mindfulness is very limited to almost like a small vehicle thing. It's that would be not necessarily the true concept actually. The four foundations of mindfulness, certainly it might have a different version, different way of understanding in the little bit of the elements inside. But then the four foundations of mindfulness is commonly agreed by all the Buddha has to practice the same thing. And also it's really the only path. When I say the only path, that means that it's not the path that directly you go to realization. So certainly in Buddhism you have many way of practices. The other many practices not necessarily mean directly realization. It might be just the way you practice, you have a more close association with the Buddha or someone, or Bodhisattva, or maybe a certain practices is like force of line abiding, for example, is one of the practice that you have a lot of marriage, good marriage. That you even not only you can be practiced in Buddhism, but you can be let's say born in a certain type of heavens and so on. So, but when we address the issue of four foundations of mindfulness, and then the four foundations of mindfulness is commonly understanding all the Buddhism is the way for the realization. Okay. All right. Now, so even though we're reading the Pali version now, like we had done the Chinese version, and then we can do a little comparative study between the two. Okay, and this is one of the very important understanding, because I know that because last time even people asked me, they said, because someone came to attend the class and they thought, why the class is about the four foundations of mindfulness is very different from what he used to listen to about the Dharma. So, and I said that again, I don't want to say much thing, but one thing we have to understand is, so it's according to the Buddhism, is only when somebody can perfect the 37 factors of enlightenment to gain enlightenment. Okay. But if Buddhism has some way that straight this point, then there's no more Buddhism already. But you may be two different practice just to be able to associate someone else or have a good merit to do something else. But it's not. But to get enlightenment per se, it's actually in agree with all the tradition. So, yes.
So. So the four foundation mindfulness is very much kind of a Buddhist creation, because I heard that the Brahma Vihara was originally in the culture itself. The Jains practiced it. It was very much present in the culture. So I'm wondering, does Satipatthana have any other, in the
well, actually, certainly in Buddhism, believe that is among the Buddhists itself.
It's only the Buddhist schools.
Well, so I think that's how Buddhists understand. Okay, so and
the previous. model of this in any other schools or?
There were a few things.
India?
No. I want to say, as I say, that certainly it's agreed by the Buddhism that that's only Buddhist itself.
Right.
But I have no way to prove that whether it's true, right? But I just say that certainly is agreed by that. And originally I read an article was about the word sati, right? Because in Sanskrit it's called smriti, right? Mm-hmm. Smriti sometimes been translated as like a memory. And then because in the 1890 something, 1860 I forgot, something like that. So somebody who lived until 1920 or something, one of the very, very famous kind of like a Bengali, from Calcutta, Bengali kind of guru. And I mean, guru means a Hindu guru, and a yogi. And then but actually the paper was mainly about how Sanskrit understands the Smriti word and how Pali understands the Sati word. And of course, basically maybe the more, because the research is mainly only in these languages, it's not in Chinese. But Chinese is very clear, it's about not that, it can mostly interpret as the Sati. In other words, mean that or you can say awareness or mindfulness.
What's in Chinese?
Nian. Nian is mean the awareness and the mindfulness. The word Chinese nian is without the ko. When you're without ko, it means you use your mouth to recite it. But when there's no ko, it means you use your mind to do it.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
the mouth article is mouth.
So the Chinese word nian. So if the one with the ko means with the mouth, one without the ko means like with the mind, right? So anyway, so but it's not like the word mean the memory. So even that I want to say this, that context is it's believed that yogi, because he have translated one Dhammapada into the Pali Dhammapada into the Bengali language. So it's believed that actually his interpretation, because he's really against or he thinks that it's wrong how people understand the Patanjali Yoga, the text. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is the most famous. Have you heard about that? Anyway, if you study Buddhism mostly, especially when you are interested in meditation, that somehow you might come across this Indian meditation text. The most famous Indian meditation text is called the Yoga Sutra. Okay, Yoga Sutra. And then I think it's somehow believed they're written in the 4th century, because the Indian always say that they are very earlier. So anyway, but then the Yoga Sutra is, they have they have many similar terms like a Buddhism, but of course they have a different system. Yeah, you have to understand the Indian yoga. The most differences between the Indian yogi and so-called the Buddhist yogi. But in earlier time, in India, everyone meditated is called a good meditator called yogi, right? But then later on, perhaps because of the Indian predominantly, they've been using the yogi for a long time. So I think later on we don't use that much as such. So it looks like the Buddhist text, especially from Pali perspective, they always use the term like people who are good at anapanasati. We have the term like anapanasati, fulfilling in practicing the anapanasati person. We don't use a yogi as such later on. Okay. And the main two difference is that because the yogi in India is that they still believe in there's a creator God. Okay. And the Buddhism, of course, the aim. So in other words, that they do meditations, but there are still many through that meditation they could be. Of course, they also have their own samadhi theory, and then they also have their own sadhana and fulfilling theory and all those theory, so that they can reach to the unification with the God. Okay, but of course that also have different interpretation among the Indian. But in Buddhism, it's on the contrary, is that so the meditate is ask you to understand there's impermanence. Impermanence has been taught in the Hindu too, okay? But in a different way. Impermanence in the phenomenally is impermanent, but not the self itself is impermanent, okay? Not your soul is impermanent. But then and then also the Hindus, of course, they also taught dukkha. So and then the dukkha, they also they have to realize the dukkha so that you have a renunciation mind. So you understand you need to keep on practice. But the dukkha also do not like Buddhism. The dukkha in the sense of Buddhism is not only by understanding the life is uncontrollable, but it also because of that kind, something you cannot change it, but then you find that your soul, there's no such a soul because we don't want dukkha, or human don't want dukkha. So then you start to understand there's no self. So that's a very different perspective from Buddhism and Hindu also. Like, definitely then Buddhism don't talk about selfless, the anatta, that's for sure, because that's against the idea of unification. They must have something that can unite back to the God. Okay. But then look at the Satipatthana. The purpose of Satipatthana, the last one, the Dhamma, is is clearly that you have to be able to realize that the three signature mean the dukkha and the anatta and then the non-self. So of course that certainly is not be agreed by the what you call the in Indian context. So. And also another thing we need to understand, at least from the Agama perspective or the Nikaya perspectives, one of the reasons what the Buddha claimed, he would be one of the omniscience, not in the sense of he knows everything, but in the sense of because he could teach the teaching in order. Okay, so it's indirectly to say that because in India, at least the time when he was in India, the Indians they might have lots of practices around, but none of them are in a very good order. Okay. Yeah, all over the place, so it could be a kind of confusion. Yeah. Wow. But of course, it's claimed that when you want to integrate it, you really need to have a very advanced knowledge, not just only because you have the attainment, but you also have in a way, you know in and out so well that you can integrate it so well, the teaching itself. Okay. All right, now we're back to read to the text now. So since this is the first class, I would say chiefly only in Pali version. So let's go through the first paragraph first. The second paragraph. Okay. We know that the text is called the Middle Length Discourse of the Buddha, Sutta number 10, Satipatthana. So it's certainly that Satipatthana is a term I said if you study Buddhism, especially in English mediums. I think nowadays, maybe in the future, in any mediums, because the word changed now. You still, even though you don't remember, you still have to be able to recognize the word Satipatthana. Okay, we're going to analyze the term a little bit more. Okay, later. So that means the translation have many. So here I put it the discourse of the foundation of mindfulness. Actually, the word foundation of mindfulness sometimes is not very satisfying, because when you translate as a foundation, so it looks like you translate the term Satipatthana as the Satipatthana, okay? Sati as one word, Patthana as one word. But however, if you understand the Satipatthana as a Sati Upasthana or Upatthana, then the Sutta might be the discourse on the establishment of mindfulness maybe sound more appropriate. I don't know, okay? But people maybe like to discuss this so-called phenomenology, okay? The phenomenological discussion. Here I will leave it a little bit later. I just want to let you know, actually you can have many different translations. And in Chinese, so sometimes we translate as, the most common that we translate as 四念处, use the word 处, okay? And it indicates a place, an object, okay? Sometimes actually the Chinese also translate 四念住, okay? So that indicate that you stay in somewhere. 住 mean you live in somewhere. So and you live on the place. Your mindfulness stay with somewhere. Your mindfulness live at somewhere, okay, or stay at somewhere. Okay. So, but I myself like to say foundation of mindfulness. No any other reasons. I mean, it's not more like philological. It's just only. It's it's one of the earlier common way to translate it also. But if you ask me, I prefer the establishment of mindfulness sometimes. But when I talk, I don't like to say establishment. It's very difficult for me to pronounce the word establishment of mindfulness. I'd rather say foundation of mindfulness, okay? Just, you might be surprised by that. Actually, sometimes when I remember when I did my research in the past, I suspect sometimes when people do translation, sometimes it's not necessarily the language. Some people, at times, they don't necessarily care philologically, but some people are very meticulous about the philology. the words, the wordings. But sometimes it's much to do with the pronouncing it. And then you just thought, if the text you're going to recite it especially, then you thought the pronunciation become more important than really philological reason too, okay? Please understand sometimes when you read a translation, you have to understand, I have to admit the reason why I've translated Foundation of Mindfulness, it's not that I don't know there's an establishment of mindfulness. It was the pronunciation factors overcome my rational understanding, okay?
Confession. Okay.
No. It's a way to let you know it's a translation. Sometimes you never know the mind, what they were thinking at the time, okay? But of course, maybe a regret. You don't have to translate that way, okay? All right, okay. The thing, of course, the same thing as all usual in the text is thus I have heard, thus have I heard, or thus I have heard, On one occasion, the Blessed One was living in the Kuru country at the town of the Kuru's name, Kamasadama, okay? Anyway, so Kuru country, well, it's said is, I think it's close to, I remember it's close to Old Delhi, not New Delhi, close to Old Delhi. And then they have a bunch of people called Kurus, but the town name is called Kamasadama. Then when you look at the Chinese actually versions, they mention actually the same place. Okay, that is, they have a really coincident. Not coincident. I mean, they really have the same idea. Okay, and then the Kurus people is believed that the reason why they call Kurus because they used to they like to, how do you say, buy their hair. Okay, kind of like according to the buy the hair. So, and then at that place, the Buddha, the Blessed One, because according to Pali, it's called the Bhagava, mean the lucky one. Or usually Chinese like to translate as the most honorable one, right? Sijun. But actually the word Bhagava, you could say the most lucky one, or the most, or you actually in a way, lucky in a sense mean the one that people really respect to you. So that's why Chinese rather to translate the term Bhagava as a Sijun. But I like actually to understand the lucky one, okay?
Is it also translated as the blessed one too?
Yeah, the Blessed One. They have to translate. I want to say the meaning actually in original language itself is means somebody that really have this kind of fortunate, Okay, but that also show fortunate to be like successful in their practice, successful in people honor him, successful that people listen to him like that, So anyway, there the Blessed One addressed to the monk. Okay, it's not only one monks but the monks. So it's a plural form. So it's like all monks. So and then of course that's also a traditional, because this is a kind to show that when the Buddha addressed to them, not like you, when addressed to you and all people are really silent, but they respond to the Buddha, right? Kind of like, it's almost like they're having a kind of conversation, more like that. So then the Venerable Sir, then they reply means they are going to, they mean it shows that they pay attention to, okay? It's not like that the Buddha was talking to the air on empty space, and the monk was really, doing their meditation, shut their ears. I guess that sometimes you can read it again and again, you find why sometimes they need to put the response, sometimes they don't put the response, and they might have a certain hint, something. It could be, okay, I'm not sure, but it could be. All right, the bhikkhus replied, and the Blessed One said this, okay, O monk, this is the direct path to the purification of beings, to the surmounting of sorrows and grief, to the disappearance of pain and discontent, to the attainment of true way, to realization of the Nibbana. Okay, so so here is said it very clearly. This is one of the is the direct part. Okay, so it's a direct part. So that to the purification of beings. Okay. And then to overcome the sorrow and grief. And then it's one of the also is a method, or you could say it's a path to the disappearance of the pain and discontent. And then for someone to be attained the true way. Okay. Now last time I said that already. The word true way. Just a moment. The way to say the true way here I said already last time, because what if you look at the party, it's called a nyayasa. Even though we translate a true way, it's not like there's a wrong way or true way, but it indicates the way that will lead someone to attain the sainthood. Okay. And then to realization of nibbana. Yes, what's your question?
So is there a reason for, in the Chinese, when it says there is one path as opposed to this is the direct path? Is there a reason why word is different? Is that just a translation?
Yeah, I think it's more, I'm not sure because we cannot find the original again, the version of the Chinese text. So far, even when you look at the Chinese version in the Agama, we have the so-called the first version of translation, but we don't have what language they've been translated into the Chinese, right? We don't know. Sometimes that's a problem. We don't know which word they use. Maybe they're different, maybe not. But but maybe best to say this way. But the Pali, when you say there's
It's almost like there's no arguing. This is the direct path, that's it. And in Chinese, it's like an option. There is one path, almost implying that there could be another path.
really. So then,
But it says here there is
okay,
one path.
good. Let me just check it.
Here, this is on page 4.
Mm-hmm.
There is one path of purification of the.
You are right. Actually, but look at Chinese. It looks like the Chinese mean. It looks like the Chinese is there is one part. 有一道尽众生. Yeah, you could read that when it say that 有一道尽众生, it means there is one path. But sometimes you could definitely whether it doesn't make that sense or not. But you could say there's not only one path. There might be other path too.
Based on what you said earlier, this is, you have to have the 4 foundations.
Yeah, good question. It's true.
So this is,
So look at the page 3 if those who read Chinese.
I can't look
Yeah.
at page 3.
Yeah.
We can.
Page 3, look at the third paragraph, the first line. 尔时世尊告诸比丘有一道尽众生. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like at least it's you can read it in that way that you said. I mean, there is one path, but it can be other path too. Yeah. Yes.
Also, most of the Chinese translation, they start with like most of the Mahayana version is 如是我闻，不是我们如是。
I think that's fine. But because it depends on different period of time. Someday they translate 我闻如是如是我闻. That's all right, you know. Yeah. I don't think that will be have big I mean, it doesn't matter. So, but it's just the way that so. Yeah, but the same as in English, some people translate "thus I have heard." Sometimes you could say "thus have I heard?" Right? I think I don't know whether you can do that. I remember some people do that too. So, "thus have I heard?" Right? So.
But in the Pali, that ekka, it kind of has a one quality, right? One.
Yeah, it is. So, but the thing it is, a Chinese word is that when you use 有一道, right? But of course, we never know in those days. I mean, during this time that when the translator or even that time the language, when you say 有一道, does it really means that to hint that there is one path or because the word 有一道, at least to our modern or because we belong to this period of time of people, it can carry the meanings. I mean, you can argue that they might have other path too, right? You could argue with that. 有一道嘛.
Or they may use an original language. It might be a genitive case of the mother. So.
No. Yeah, I don't think my understanding the genitive. My understanding, of course, the Chinese don't use you as a genitive case. It would be the possessive case. Yeah. Otherwise, if there's something, it could be like a. Oh, you mean genitive? Yeah, it could be you. Yeah, genitive case.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. It could be. If you can prove that there's a genitive case, then it will be same as a Pali.
Mhm.
So not sure. So
When we compare and contrast, and just reading this first paragraph where you read about the true way, it says the attainment of true way to the realization of Nibbana, but here it says for obtaining the true Dhamma. It's almost as though it's left to the practitioner, whoever it is, to sort of find the true way, the liberation. And here, it's almost this is the only way in order to attain it. So, my question to you is, how are we looking at it? Because I'm looking at some of these words and what they use. Is it because it's translated a certain way based on Chinese, or are we looking for some concrete differences?
No, I mean, put it this, I don't know. I mean, of course it's good that when you read it, compare the two different versions, you find they might have a little, I mean, maybe a different connotation given, right? But that's a good way to begin to study a text, because you need to, I mean, at least that's how we trained. You don't, you need to have a question first. The question will give you actually have more understanding. And and also another thing we need to understand, this is all a translation. Even the Chinese are also a translation. We don't know from that what language. And of course, then there's a complicated case even that even the earlier time, when the Buddha really say the Buddha would taught a text, when that how it been kept, in what language and what way they been kept is still another question. So, but I mean, you can. That's the reason why people can do PhD on this. I mean, that's and no, they have to. That's true. But yeah, I mean, so far, don't think that you will have the answer. I'm sure, let me tell you. As far as I know, there's even though people would try to find many proof to prove that was a way, but there's no way to talk to say that that is definitely the 100% answer. The only answer you can ask the Buddha. Okay. So Buddha, whether when you say this really, okay. So I mean it's and also do not. I like to say this. Do not, because I remember when I've been trained as a monk first, and then I went to the university to study. And actually at first when I attended the class, when teachers sometimes say something which is like, it's questionable thing, I don't like it. Because it sounds like I started to sound like, it's almost like questions, something I believe, become a true thing. But that's what I want to say. Since we're studying here, I don't like you to be, you need to be more advanced. At least, this is how I think. Because even though at first I don't like it, because I rather like people who give me one answer. But then, but at time when you go by, you find that is the proper way to study. Even all the Greek masters, so-called, I mean, not people call them, but they're really great masters. They definitely know there are so many different answers, but they want to know how to come up with an answer which is appropriate sometimes. Because sometimes you can address with this too. Some people might misunderstanding, or maybe the meaning are too narrow. It could be. So to build up this kind of skill, you have to be able to build up this question first, and to see the differences are there. As I say, even though this is all our conjectures, so we still have no answer whether the Chinese really means there is one way, or okay. It could be because when the translator, when he would translate, he carry a certain baggage too. Due to that circumstances, and the people don't understand the text so well, and because it was, I might be also try to avoid this, and I won't say there is only way, right? I would just say there is one way. It could be because a translator thinking that way. Not that he believe it, just thought to make the situation much better. There's so many situations we don't know. But it's okay, but at least to be faithful to the text we know, it means, yes, you are right, it means there is one way. But, or because our Chinese doesn't mean what we are thinking now, in those days maybe, even we don't know, okay? But it's true in this modern Chinese or what we learn, it can carry the meanings, it cannot be understood as the only way, okay? It can carry that little meaning with that. But of course, we're still not sure, okay? But in Pali, I should say, it's very, very clear. It means there's because it use ekayano ayam bhikkhave makko. That's the reason why we hope that we can find Sanskrit version. Even though the Sanskrit version might be we found is all later than the Chinese, because we don't have the Sanskrit version like it earlier than the Chinese translation, like 2nd century or 1st century. We might have some Prakrit and some other language found. But that's the reason why we also hope that when we have some other languages compare. Okay, anyway, now let's back here. But in the Pali, of course, last time I discussed that even though the Ekayana mean the only way or the direct way or the only path,
There was 5 translations.
but they're not 5 translation. They
Give
were
us unified path, integrated, converging point confluence, one way, and direct path.
yeah. It's not 5 translation. I
But I'm saying
mentioned.
you gave us 5 different.
Yeah,
translations.
no, it was actually explained in the Pali commentary. You can understand the word, the only path or the direct path, as 5 ways. Can you repeat the 5 ways again? The first way?
You said unified path,
Yeah.
integrated path, conversion point, points of confluence, one way, and direct path.
Really? No. Conversion path is one. Unification actually is never mentioned in the.
Similar. You
No,
said
no.
like-
Unification is never mentioned in the
Unified,
commentary.
you said- what you said-
Unify is my idea
Oh.
and also some scholars' idea too.
Right. But I
So-
wrote down what you said.
No, and
I didn't classify
No.
what was the commentary and what you said. I just put all.
no.
this
I
down.
think
There's many ways
one
to
is
say it.
mean because that definitely is a way lead to the nibbana. That's why it's
One
called
way to
one way. And then it is called one way because it's the way that the only taught by the Buddha. Okay. And it's called one way is because it's the only way basically that will lead you to go to nibbana. Okay. So, in other words, one is the way that is the, and it's one way. I think it's I forgot the other two. Meaning, that's why.
In
Um,
845, so also have Buddha.
No, I was saying that the commentary how to explain the only way in five explanation. So I cannot remember the two because I didn't expect I'm going to say because I said that in the last time. Because I myself prefer it mean the only one way refer to the one mean the unified way. One of the almost like a way that which is huge in a you collect all the many system into one become a unified way to lead to your to nibbana. So, yeah.
Buddha wanted to emphasize this path is only way or direct path to the Nibbana. Ekayana Maggo Buddha had
Yeah, then that is
845 path also one only way to the Nibbana.
yeah, but then that is only one explanation in the commentary because commentary say there are 5, and then it's why it say the Ekayana because it's the way that only taught by the Buddha. So also, okay. But sometimes it looks like some teachers prefer also, even though not in the West here, but in Asia, sometimes they prefer to understand the only way. At least that's how I used to learn before, and that is that the only way refer to. There's no other way, but this is the only way. Okay.
What is the,
Yes.
what you said, the Romanized Pali text, what is that refer to?
What? The Romanized?
Yeah.
It's no, Roman of course it's been done by Britain in the earlier time because when they colonized and then they just Pali is like that. Pali is a language you maybe easier to say it this way. It's a language. I like to explain this way. It's like it's believed at least according to the Pali tradition it's a language is as a dialect language mostly used in a place. And then suddenly been carried away, carry the language and hold the Buddhist text into Sri Lanka, okay, by the son of the Asoka, but he was a monk and then he was become Arahant as well. So Asoka had many sons and one of the sons become a monk and even one of his daughter become a nun too. So and both believe they are Arahants, and then he carried the Buddhism to Sri Lanka. So that's how the Pali being kept. But then, of course, later on, the commentaries say that the Pali is a language which is spoken in the Magadha. So, because we also know in Buddhism that because the Buddha lived in Magadha for, I think, 27 years or 32, I'm so bad in number, but something like that. I mean, more than about 20-something years. So, in other words, you could claim that if that is true, so if the if the Pali was the language of the Magadha, and the Buddha, in other words, mean the Buddha mostly used Pali to speak, because the time that when he used it for missionary, that giving the Buddhist teachings, it was about 45 years, right? But I think it's 32 years. He lived in Magadha for 32 years, so that means he's quite more than half of the time. So during his preaching, so I using the Pali. Whether that was agreed by everybody or not, of course, not necessarily, but at least that's how the Pali understands it, okay? But it's for sure the Pali language came to Sri Lanka, it was before Christ, about 300 years. It means after Buddha passed away, about 300 years already. So they still, whatever how you understand it, it still have a very highly authentic language, because it's a whole Buddhist text language still preserved in the old language, which after the Buddha passed away, a few hundred years exists until now. So far, in the whole system is only Pali language. Okay, but why it become Romanized is because it's later on. Because the Pali, actually, when you study Pali, it's always based on the sound. You know, that's how the Indian language original. The scriptures are always based on what scripture they use to represent the sound. Okay, like Sri Lankan people in early time they use certain scriptures. Even in India also, they change all the scriptures all the time, but they are still based on the sound. Okay, and it's not like Chinese. Chinese is based on the so-called. That's why the Chinese is we have a term. Epigraphic, I think, it's a kind of epigraphic language, because it's based on the like epigraphic languages like Chinese, as well as there's Egypt, the ancient Egypt. They use the pictures to represent the language. How they pronounce it is another thing, but when you look at the word, you know that what does it mean. It's called epigraphic. But in Indian language, it's based on the sound, okay, phonetics, the sound. Anyway, so later on, so that the Britain, maybe, as far as I know, and or maybe some other country, basically in Europe, they started to Romanize the character. So that's also what you have to learn, like original what kind of word, and then you just Romanize the word. So, all right. And especially after they do Romanize in earlier time, when they Romanize the character, it's good for what? For people who are, like, for example, if I want to read the Burmese version, then I need to learn Burmese character. Then if I want to learn the Thai version, I have to read the Thai character. And if I want to read the Sinhalese version, and then I need to read the Sinhalese Sri Lankan character. So if you Romanize it, you don't have to. But some version, they have a different way. They still have some word, and they don't agree, okay, to each other. Sometimes the same text in Thai version, in Burmese version, and Sri Lankan version are different too, okay? So that's and a scholar, and as a scholar especially, I mean now it becomes not only scholar, it's just general people. You need to first learn how to transcribe it into that. The same thing like Chinese. Like if I write anything nowadays, you quote the Chinese, now it becomes a standard form. You cannot just write the Chinese character there. Let's say I argue about the word, 念处, the 处, right? Old Chinese translate as 注 also. So I cannot just write the Chinese word because you don't read it, right? So I have to Romanize, I have to use a pinyin. In earlier time, we don't use pinyin. We use a type of pinyin invented by Taiwan, but now pinyin replaced it. They call that 韦氏 pinyin. Okay, I found how to spell the word. Wait something. I know in Chinese called 韦氏. Yeah, 韦早 or something like that. So that's why the Taiwanese pinyin and then so-called pinyin, like the Romanized character are different from nowadays in China, right? But now later on now, as far as I know, at least when I did my, the time when I did my research, I mean that earlier time I had to use the Taiwanese. Later, but the university inform us have to use a pinyin. So that's why I have to even convert all into back to the pinyin. Okay. You know what I mean? Okay, started. Okay, that's how the Romanized comes. All right. Okay, we know that this is a path, direct path have many meanings, but however, whatever it means that one of the paths which is based on how you like to interpret it or argue about that, but it's a path that lead to the purification of beings, to surmounting the sorrow and grief, to the disappearance of pain and discontent, and to the attainment of true way, and to realization of Nibbana. As I say the word true way, I need to emphasize again the word jnana, sir. It refers to people who gain the sainthood, okay, in Pali. But when you look at the Chinese version, it seems like, but of course we don't know yet, but you just look at it, it seems like the Chinese was saying that you could observe the so-called like Saddharma, mean the pure Dharma. You know, like the Lotus Sutra always call themselves as the pure Dharma. So, Saddharma, okay. All right, what are they? So, namely the four foundations of mindfulness. And then what are, we need to change again. What are the four? Here, bhikkhus of mind. So the same thing, the contemplating the body with regard to the body. But in other words, mean contemplate the body, not the other, but with regard to the body. So and the same thing, it's and also ardent, equally aware, mindful, having overcome covetousness and grief for the word. Okay. Let me see. The word firstly. So. It implies that from a Pali language means, and if something like here, if the monks, they stay contemplating the body with regard to the body, so seems like something will come up, okay. What thing will come up? It's the ardent, mean the energy will come up. Oh no, atapi, okay. Basically in Pali with atapi means something like, this. Basically, you have energy to work on it. Okay, it comes up, and then sambhajano, satima, vinayo. Okay, and equally, but sometimes this translate. People have different translation. In Chinese, of course, it's called 正知. So here we translate as equally aware. Okay, and then mindful is mean the satima, and then the vinaya. Okay, so. So basically, the vinaya loke okay. The next one is actually mean having overcome covetousness and grief for the world. Okay.
What does grief for the world mean?
I mean,
Like this real thing.
in this world, you could say that also, if you like,
Suffering.
or in the world maybe.
But can I ask another way? Atapi, doesn't that also has this purification, like you see the kind of purification is burning? Atapi has that element as well? Or am I thinking too Indian, like in yoga tradition, because the tapas, the burning, that's kind of a purification element as well. The ardent.
It might be, but no. But the atapi is not tapas.
Reading too much into it?
No, yeah, reading too much on it. No.
Because that's from the yoga tradition. The Indian tradition.
Because it's, you have to understand in the yoga tradition, it believes that what carry the sin, what carry these, the defilements is your soul carry the defilement. Buddhism do not believe in soul, right? But in the yoga, in the Hindu yoga, that because is the soul carry these the defilements. So if you practice. I mean, of course, the famous one, if you go to museum, you might be even able to see that. So Jainism is one of them, one that they sometimes believe that if you can abide yourself or be patient and practice, and then the heat itself can burn your...
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's...
And Buddhism is not.
Yeah. But then it can become later on lead to a kind of very extreme practice. That's what we call this the self-modification, because you have to sit the four fire, you have to put the four fire around you, you sit in doing meditation, you need a fifth fire, the sun. Okay? Imagine you have to do meditation there. Nowadays people do meditation, they say, oh, I'm so painful, I'm so hot. Imagine you sit on the four fire and under the sun. And then if you can meditate for a long time, but I don't know the content of it. How? So don't forget about your mind. That sitting under the four fire and then with the hot sun. No, never, no. That's why I said that because Buddhism regarded as an extreme practice. So.
Because he went through that. So
yeah, that's it won't be the Buddha. Okay. All right. If there's no question, we move on. But it's also actually, but of course the commentary also did use the term burn too, okay, but that might be a language. Because the commentary say, Ata Piti Su, Bhagavad Gita, Su, Ata Piti Ata Po, yeah, Vidya, yes, yeah, okay, anyway. He say this, if you look at this, the word Atapi, it could mean, yeah, you can say ardent, means having, the energy to burn away the defilements in the three realms of existence. So this is called, this is a name for the energy.
I think Buddha is using a different word.
So that's why it say Vidya Sedam Naman, but it also can understand, it's a term for like Vidya, right, the Noble Eightfold Path, you have the right energy, Sama, Vayama, or Vidya, so it's some kind of all the five faculties, the Vidya faculties. Okay.
Sorry to repeat, but it seems like Buddha is saying, look at the body, being mindful. You've got body as the body, but then he says, you also equally have to aware, be mindful, having overcome covetousness and grief. So you're engaging also to check in how the state of the mind is, whether it's pure or not pure, whether something is present or not present. So it seems like you're also integrating body with the mind, seeing what the quality of mind it is to look at the body. So it seems like it's very interrelated. Am I interpreting that?
Of course, it's always interrelated. When you remember,
it's not just body looking at its body.
No, we will come to the content of that. But I think when you look at this, I want to stress this point at the moment. If you look at the grammatically, at least sometimes when you look at the Pali, sometimes there's grammatically maybe give you a clear meaning also. Generally, it looks like it means when you have able to do the contemplate the body with regard to the body. Now, we did discuss what does a body means also in the earlier time. So we can discuss that later. But anyway, so because body not only restricted to the material body, but body can be understood as a collection of the thing called the body, right? Especially when you look at the Chinese version, it's very clear in that way. But I know that if you based on the Pali version, you could say no, because the Pali version looks like, at least I read, Stephen just lent me a book, I just glanced through it today a little bit, and he was trying to defend that. He said, for example, so basically the jhana system there, put it there, it doesn't fit to the body. So it implies something like the body has to be understood as a material body. So, but then however, you also know for the whole Buddhist text, if you read the whole Agama or even the Nikaya, sometimes the word body here, and there's so many proof already, that be understood as the six senses. If you understand the body as the six senses, especially in relation to the dependent arising, so then the body as the six senses, the sixth one is the mind already, it's not the body too. So the body in that sense has been understood as a collective now, okay? Hello, are you sleeping now or just too complicated? All right, so it means having do that or done those things, something will come up that will be your ardent, equally aware, that means your comprehension, and then your mindful, having overcome, and then when they overcome this covetousness and grief, actually for the word is okay. I don't know. It's because even though locative, we can translate as the purpose. And locative sometimes. And then basically you develop those things you develop. So your energy, your ardent, and then you're equally aware, or sometimes you translate as sometime. Any other remember what translation to use? Yeah, clearly comprehension. Yeah. And then a mindful. Normally, the difference. This is a big topic again, because in even like the Tibetan version also always talk about the clarity comprehension, and also talk about the mindful, the word, right? Like I know actually at least 入菩萨行. Okay, so 我们叫入菩提行, depending on how to translate. The bodhicharya avatar. Okay. However, maybe easier to understand is that the mindful is you just be mindful on the object. Okay, and then the what we call this the clarity comprehension or equally aware. It has more to do with the understanding of the factors of what you're doing. Okay. So, and then if you look at the word, it has the because sampajanya has from the root nya, so it means you kind of like you develop a certain kind of knowledge by having this kind of comprehension. Okay.
Does that go in hand with contemplate the Dharma with regards to the Dharma?
Those are the stage, because.
Because the way I understand comprehension and some of the stuff that I was reading is that when you're doing something, you're almost contemplating or doing it through the Dharma. You're doing it with sort of the filter. You're filtering it through the Dharma.
I don't know what. Yes, but I don't. But I don't understand what to. Well, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean when you say the word Dharma, because when you're observing the body, is also observing the Dharma.
Right.
But I thought you say Dharma means contemplation Dharma as in the Dharma. That's another different. It can carry different meaning.
What I'm looking at is when you're talking about comprehension is knowing what you're doing and experiencing and sort of the sitting, the walking, the movement.
Yes.
Clear comprehension, but in order to do that, you must be a practitioner in order to contemplate it through the Dharma, based on what we were talking about last week, or the week before.
Yeah, but then the comprehension is still different to the mindfulness, right? You still, so that's why comprehension, even though usually more understanding in the way like when you're walking, when you're sitting, it's a kind of the whole there's a dormant that activities is going on. Well, that is like more like a comprehension, right?
For the average person, you're sitting, but does a person contemplate or comprehend that they're actually sitting or walking? And to understand that, you would have to sort of know some of the Dharma or meditate in order to be able to comprehend. Like you have to have some we go through life doing gestures and doing actions without contemplating or comprehending what we're doing. And you do it sort of mindlessly as opposed to mindfully, is my thing. So doesn't contemplating the Dharma fall into the comprehension component? Is my question. Maybe I'm reading too much into Young's grade.
I think the if I'm not wrong, is that the right comprehension, it does have the meaning means that you know the Dharma, right? And then maybe you could say that if you want to separate the definition of the right comprehension, and then also one we call this the sati. So sati is just a mindful, right? So it does not necessarily carry certainly the right comprehension. But what I want to emphasize is it seems like the right comprehension, because this is more about like the mind become, because this is all absorbing. The practice is all taken place on from the mind. So when the mind become energetic to practice, because doing that, and then also and then the grief and then the sorrow, by your practicing the grief and sorrow doesn't arise, right? So then you establish, or your mind will become ardent, and comprehension, and then the mind. The mindful, that's I want to say the three things there. One is the energetic, one is something maybe closely to do with the knowledge and the wisdom. But it, and then the other one is just the awareness itself. Yeah. So.
I noticed that in the Chinese, at the bottom of the paragraph, the word is dhammas with a plural, which implies the things of the world. And in the Pali, there's a capital letter for dharma in one place, but a small letter in the other. And I don't know whether that's purposeful and significant or not. down in at the bottom of the paragraph, by contemplating Dhamma with regards to Dhamma.
I think that I see. Then maybe that's not do it on purpose.
Dhamma as in,
Actually, some people like to use a capital letter just purposely just want to show it's a kind of like a proper noun.
I see.
So, but then I prefer actually to change it in a small character. No, I think that when you look at it later, so I change it all in a small letter. But then this one I forget to change it. You know, sometimes when you do the proofreading, you just didn't see it. There's a problem.
So I guess my question is,
Okay.
are we talking about the teachings of the Buddha? Are we talking about the things of the world, which is completely
The things of the
separate?
world, yeah. I think it's, we discussed that also last week, the Dhamma, because from the Chinese version, or in general maybe one of the best way to begin to understand. I don't mean that's the only way to explain. So it's very complicated when you read the text in the detail. It's to understand the Dhamma, certain Dhamma usually means a truth. Something is real, it's true, it's a truth. Okay, that's how I take it. But in the different contexts, say that the Buddha speak Dhamma. So my way of understanding the Dhamma is like, it's a term that often used, you know, for many meanings. But normally how I go to say that the Buddha speaks something what at least to Buddhism it means the truth. He never tell lie, so it's a truth. The true thing, but then on that context I cannot translate as the Buddha speak true, right? The truth. Even though the truth have a word satya, you know, but Buddhism satya have different connotation. The word Buddhism, the satya, the truth, it always has to do with a deep realization, right? It's not as superficially a teachings only. So, but it's so don't do bad thing. So that doesn't, it maybe help you not to do bad thing and become a good person, but there's no such a thing called like a vulnerable truth, I have a deep realization there. So that's why, you know what I'm saying? The word Dhamma means it's a Dhamma, don't do bad thing, it's a Dhamma. But then, because of not doing the bad thing, having the Dhamma, and he understands everything is impermanence, or blah, 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 and then he realized the vulnerable truth, so he attained the truth. Okay? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say if you would maybe translate this last Dhamma as a phenomena, then if you see phenomena as they really are, you have seen the Dharma, the way things really are.
And we're talking, yeah, that makes sense.
Clearly comprehend dharmas is to see the Dharma.
Yeah, but it looks like if we take it like whether the phenomena loosely or if it in the context of the Satipatthana, can we take I don't mean you cannot, but I want to say only in this text itself. Let's say, I was thinking about the phenomena term too, because I don't know how you understand the term phenomena. My understanding the term in English phenomena means something that kind of like something that created from the mind. I won't say create, something that the mind knows. So something the mind knows. And but then the thing it is, yeah, it might be it's okay, but I still think when you return the word, yeah, it is when you put a phenomenon maybe less arguable, and you're clear that something that the mind knows. Maybe it's a good way to do that. But at that time, I only think that the Dhamma. No, it's a plural form, Dhammesu. Yeah. So
We have some mentioned the Dhammesu, the Four Noble Truths, and Eightfold Path, the full awareness about these Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path.
yeah, that's what I say. I want to say it because I don't want to be understand the phenomena in terms of just loosely in phenomena, but in the context of here. So the word why I return the Dhamma, at that time I would just only, so since it means when you contemplate the Dhammas with regards to the Dhamma, I didn't use a plural term because everything I use the singular term. Okay, so to represent as like a proper noun. So that's only carry like the Four Noble Truths or something that to do with the realization already. Oh, that's
The 5 types here,
Mm.
this page.
Yeah.
Done message. 4 noble, 8 fold path, 4 noble truth, 5 aggregates, and 6 internal and
all right. Looks like this side have a very great debate.
How wonderful.
Right, I mean, he actually defines what these dhammas are later in the 4th section, right? What are the four
Yeah, it
varieties?
does. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Mm. All right. Let's just go a little bit and then we can a little break. Okay. The first one, the contemplation of the body. Okay. Shall we read it? I think why don't you all read it together? From page 32, and bhikkhus. And bhikkhus.
How does a bhikkhu abide contemplating the body with regards to the body? Here bhikkhus is down in the forest, what do at the root of a tree or an empty house, having sat cross-legged, having aspired to straighten the body, having put forth himself to present mindful in front of the face. Ever mindful, he breathes in, mindfully he breathes out. Breathing in long, he knows, I'm breathing in long. Breathing out long, he knows, I'm breathing out long. Breathing in short, he knows, I'm breathing in short. Breathing out short, he knows, I'm breathing out short. He learns, I shall breathe experiencing the whole body.
He learns,
I shall breathe out experiencing the whole body.
He
He learns, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the body formation. He learns, I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the body formation. Just as a skilled turner or his apprentice in making a long pull knows I'm making a long pull.
In making a short pull, knows I'm making a short pull. In such a same way, bhikkhus breathing long, a bhikkhu knows I'm breathing long. Breathing out long, he knows I'm breathing out long. Breathing in short, he knows I'm breathing short. Breathing out short, he knows I'm breathing out short. He learns I shall breathe in experiencing the whole body.
He learns, I shall breathe out experiencing the whole body.
He learns I shall breathe in tranquilizing the bodily formation. He learns I shall breathe out tranquilizing the bodily formation. In this way, he abides contemplating the body with regards to the body internally, or he abides contemplating the body with regards to the body externally, or he abides contemplating the body with regards to the body both internally and externally, or he abides contemplating the body observing the arising of phenomena, or he abides contemplating the body in observing the ceasing of phenomena, or he abides in contemplating the body observing the arising and ceasing of phenomena, or mindfulness that there is a body is virtually
present in as
as
far
far as for purpose of knowledge and fully remembrance. He abides independently, not clinging to anything in the world.
This is how
a
bhikkhu
bhikkhu
abides
contemplating the body with regards to the body.
Okay. Thank you. A long reading. And then you do see there's a little difference between the Chinese and the Pali now. And we look at the list first. So first they say, and how a monk practice this. And then the abide, contemplate the body, with regard to the body. So, and then, it said that the monk sit down in the forest or in the root of the tree or empty house, okay. And then, having set the cross leg, I don't know whether it should be the cross leg, but that's how they usually translate. Because actually, sometimes to be exact, actually the Pali word when you say, even though we have a connotation, always say they haven't sat on the cross leg, but it literally means just sat, having folded his feet. Okay, but I remember when I was in Burma, actually I did ask this question because look at the Pali, to my understanding, the word and it means folded feet. But of course we always understand as a cross leg. But then I asked that, how do you understand one of my Abhidhamma teachers? And then he said that would be understood as a cross leg. But I say, but look at the Pali, it doesn't really, even though we read it the way it means as a cross leg, but it does mean that. So then he checked on the commentary, I remember very well, he checked the Burmese version, he find the text, not on, I don't know whether from this text, but he find, because I was asking this term, but he said that the Buddha was sat there and then he fold his leg, one leg from there, one side, other leg fold other side, so that means by this. So I want to say that certainly through the commentary we understand the word folding the leg means the cross leg mostly, okay, but that was a commentary interpretation, but I think literally it means just folding the leg. So
But there is a Burmese position called the Burmese position where you sit like this instead of cross that you sit.
no, there are so many positions.
Right.
Actually,
Burmese, actually.
even last time I went to this what is the museum? The museum we went. I always forget the name.
Asia Society.
No, here at the museum we went to see the Buddha statues. I don't know what is Ruban Museum. I think it's Metropolitan maybe. So they have the statue because come from the lost land. That means the statues that they found from like a certain area of Burma, but it's not a forest area, like an abandoned area. They found the statue, and they also found a certain area, abandoned area in Cambodia, and abandoned area in Malaysia, and then abandoned areas in Burma or Myanmar now they call. So actually they call the lost land because it's, yeah, we know now they are still Buddhist country, but I mean the statue all found on the abandoned area, not like a ruin. So, but you find actually sometimes the Buddha statues sit. Normally the Chinese try to show the Buddha was sit on a cross leg, full lotus. But the Pali, the Theravada, you could see that they normally see the Buddha on a half lotus. Yes, look, you check it on the statue yourself. Yeah, the half lotus. And then when those abandoned statues, some are from 6th century to 8th century, but because that you can depict how they understand the Buddha. So and the Buddha, sometimes they put even the Buddha, not even the half lotus, but even like the leg like that. This is my leg, okay, my feet. So usually you do the full lotus like this, and half lotus is one side upright, and it's like that.
This is just cross. Yeah.
No, the cross is not this cross. This way. The 2 feet is, yeah, facing up. Yeah, and it's.
There's this position right here, one in front of.
I know, but I don't. That's also something you see the statue like that too. But not the Buddha statue. I was talking about Buddha statue, but the Buddha statue they also have this. It's very interesting. So it looks like the Theravada statue, but now the modern Theravada never have this. Never. No. But during the one that they found in the lost land, those statues, they have someone like that sitting in this way too. So just to let you know, the word actually, I didn't mean folded, but how it been folded. But of course, it's still at least commonly believed that definitely the Buddha during the time under the body tray, before a 10 and 90, definitely he has to be cross-legged. Okay. But how Buddha normally sits, so it looks like, seems only judged from the statues, even earlier statues, like in the Theravada tradition, and not necessarily always on a cross leg. Okay, so some even half. There's only half lotus. Okay. I don't know whether that should be mentioned, but it's something interesting. Also, you notice that also the mudra, the hands. Sometimes in the Indian tradition, the statue is always the right hand is on top. Okay, but the Chinese like to have this left hand on top. So, and of course, then another text have different way. I mean, the Chinese version or so-called the Mahayana version, they have so many explanations of that. But I think for cultural understanding, the Indian in general would not like this have the left hand on top, because still the cultural Indian left hand is always represent a kind of unclean.
That's what you clean the
So, but the Chinese the left is always represent is the bigger than the right. Okay. So, so it always in the Chinese culture is like say that if there's 2 people sit beside me, left and the right one, the left one should mean bigger than the right one. Okay. It's a kind of implied. Yeah, but yeah, it's it. But anyway, so and then of course the health reason also they also don't want to suppress. And anyway, there's so many explanations. But I just want to let you know that the statue also you could see that the Chinese claim to put this on top, and the party would like to have the Theravada or the Indian, not only Theravada, the Indian, if you go in, they have the right hand on top, on the
The
left.
right hand on top for the right hand people seems more natural than the other one. It feels like that.
Sometimes there's something very subtle there. It's not only.
No, it's neurologically very explainable, actually. Neuroscience.
No, my understanding is always if you sit in the full lotus, if that was a left, because you have so-called a lotus posture and diamond posture. So the lotus posture is this foot came first and this came later, right?
The right first. And
So when you show this, you have a little space over here. It's much easier if you put the right foot on the back and the left foot on the top. It's much comfortable,
Right.
okay, because you have a little curve, okay, and it looks proportionally more comfortable. But if you're sitting on the diamond way, mean the left foot first and the right foot later, so and then you have to put the left foot on top. And that's also one reason you notice that the statue in the Mahayana or either Tibetan or mostly Chinese, they put the left foot on the top and right foot on legs.
So who is Buddha right-handed, do you think, or left-handed? Because that, yeah, that would tell the dominance of the brain.
Everybody knows that it was like.
No, he's right-handed. Because it shows brain dominance, so you can tell how the position is. It's modern neuroscience coming up.
Okay, anyway, that's very biased. Don't think. Okay, let's get back to this, and then.
Neuroscience, he is not believing.
Okay, I want to explain this because I just want to let you know. Actually, sometimes we must understand the word. The word actually not necessarily means the cross leg. Just only means full leg, but it's definitely commentary understand as a cross leg. Okay. And then every mindful he present the mindful in front. This here is interesting. So having set cross leg or having folded leg. Okay, I don't want to put folded leg because some people find I'm too controversial. So. And having aspired to straighten body, okay, in other words, he strict his body, keep his body upright, okay. And then, and what has it? He say, this is of course a lot of discussion over also. Having put forth himself to present mindful in front of the face, okay. So somebody understand in front of the face, it just mean, it just, no, this is how I understand. Actually, lots of people don't agree with that, okay. So, that's why I say that's how I understand.
Yeah, look in the front.
We have studied the text, so I'm not saying what I tell you. I say, even that's how my interpretation is. Of course, I have my proof, right? I'm not going to write a paper about why I think it's this and that. But I mean, this is how I is it. But I mean, some people just take that. Actually, this is just a language to say, you have to be mindful. Some people take it that way too. Okay, but of course, if you ask me, I don't agree with that. But because somehow when you do meditation, you still have to know, even though you're observing the breath here, yeah, that's some kind of like this. So, but that problem is some people take it also very literally. Means that the in front means that you even to observe the hair, you have to be put it here, right? Also, then there's another question too. So really, you know what I'm saying? Okay, but if it, however, but my way of explaining it, if you practice, if you don't know that you should have to somehow aware this in front, I guess you still can practice a meditation well, I don't mean not, but somehow you miss something that you were not able to easily discern something. That's the reason why I say that the word, there's a word in front, I didn't add the word, okay? When there's anything adding, I have to put the square bracket. So the party, there's a word here. So
That's why the Buddha has a dot here, right?
there's a parimukhan sati. No, then that's another question. Don't forget the statue. Sometimes all these things is maybe Indian people like the dot, so they keep it one more dot here. Looks more Indian. Like I don't think that Western people like the dot. Maybe take it off. You do say that the Buddha have 32 marks, but one of the marks is between the elbows, eyebrows. The eyebrows, you have this white hair curling. That's one of the 32 marks of the Buddha. Okay, all Buddhas. Yeah.
But also you have the pineal gland behind there that perceives light. So looking in the front makes sense if you want to get to the jhanas and to the nimitta. It makes perfect sense to look at the front.
Let's back to the text first. Okay.
Oh.
Yes, you have a question?
Parimukkham, right?
Hello? Yes?
Is that in reference to the namitta that he's talking about, being mindful of his
I don't think he will say that first so far. He will only mention, so you prepare your mind in that way. Put the object in front. But the word object in front, some people take it so literally, means it has to be there. I think it's yes and no, depending on what technique you practice, right? But at the same time, but you still have the mind prepared in front, because otherwise you are just really look internal, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I sometimes describe it like almost like you look here, but you look here. You know what I'm saying? Almost like you have to go through this way.
Also, when we do the metta meditation, you always stress looking.
Yeah, that's why I say the object is different. But don't forget, even though we stress on this is only for individual, right? But if you practice the directions on group, it's not. It's whole. That's front whole. So it's also wrong to interpret only front mean this. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's the mentioned in the text that he prepared his mind in front of the face. Okay. The mindfulness, present the mindfulness in front of the face. So the mindfulness is clearly presented in front of the face. Okay. So ever mindful, he breathe in, mindful, he breathe out. That I don't have to mention now. That means he know mindfully that breathe in and breathe out. So and then breathing in long, but this is different here when you look at the Pali. So the word he's saying, first he say, of course if you say the Pali, it said that Satova sasati. He so Satova sasati. Sato pasasati, right? It means there's a word sati here, mindful, he present. But the next word, when the breathe long breath and then the short breath, there's no the word sati, okay? But he would say, when the long breath, when there is a long breath, so he knows, okay, the long breath, okay? So, because long breath is not like the observe correct, like I know in breath, out breath, in breath. It's like I have mindfully know I in breath and out breath. But when there's a long breath, it's not like long breath, no. It's like you mindful the breath, then you know long. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you use the word not mindful know the long breath. Long breath, he knows long breath. Get it now? Okay. When you look at the sati, okay. Hello? So do you understand what I'm saying? No?
Yeah.
Instead of mindful, you know.
Yeah, instead of using sign note, mindful use the word knows because the breath is the long breath. If it's mindful, then you'll be the breath only, okay? Whether the breath is in or out, that's mindful. But then, because the long breath, he knows long breath. And the short breath, he knows short breath, okay? Those are the terms they use. And then breathing, and then, let me see, what is next? So, breathing in, experience the whole breath, he learns, okay? Yeah. In Pali, it's used the word sikati. It's not using pajanati, mean he knows. He learns. It's the whole breath. So when it comes in the breath, he learns it's coming the breath, okay? All right. But then that also give you, it looks like the Pali carefully understand the word mindful, the word knows, and the word learns, sikati, or study, actually you could say. So, but that when you require the whole breath as a learns, and then coming the breath as a learns, it might be implied that something more than just know something happened, okay? Maybe require some other effort too, okay? Yes.
It doesn't imply come to realize, which is another meaning of the word learn. He comes to realize that.
It can be. It can be. Yeah. It's. I say this because, of course, I also have. I carry with the commentary understanding because. So when you say the whole breath, you learn that you have to check. Like with the beginning of the breath, the middle of the breath, the end of the breath, right? Or even if you follow some other tradition, say the whole of the breath, like the long breath, the short breath, or the whole breath in the body. So, but it's also when your explanation also makes sense too, because like he come to more realize something. Yeah. So, but I would take it more like, as I say, because I still have my baggage. My baggage is with the commentary or the technique that will be carried. It means something you definitely have to pay more attention, or you still have to be really more skillful and to do something, to learn something. Yeah, not just
plain
knowledge.
observation.
Not just
right?
pure observation of knowing the long and short breath. So
It requires more.
yeah. More study, yeah. And then the same thing is require more study on the tranquilizing the body, the breath, okay? But do understand the word, I shall breathing tranquilizing the bodily formation, okay? And because if you look at the Pali, that's how the literally translation is mean. But what does mean by the bodily formation? Because in Visuddhimagga, what we learn, the power of purification, understand the bodily formation, the body here, it doesn't look, seems like the body doesn't mean anything but the breath itself. The breath of the body of the breath. You get it now?
But some people also speak about the whole body breath, not just here.
I say that to
so there's many interpretations.
Yeah, but the part of purification, understand. That's why when you read any commentary, when any text, you have to see. When they stress something, they know that already. Somebody taught something else, but I stress this point here. You get it now?
Is this the same as bodily activity on page 8 in Chinese, and tranquility?
Page 8.
Page 8, second paragraph 1.5 or 5.5 or...
Yeah, that was Chinese in page 7. The thing it is, because the Chinese also translate the word, let's say you are those who know Chinese, 学子习身，学子习身行习路，学子习身，我们先不管的就是学子习身行习出的，这个先不谈的口型，好，就这样，学子习身行习路。我们先So
what's the difference between the tranquility?
That is not clear. That I want to say in Chinese is not clear also whether that represent as the body as the physical body or the body of the breath. It's not clear. Also, get it now? Hello. Are you feel boring to discuss this way? Okay. Yes.
This question is your practice. Like what?
Yes.
The body of the breath also is that the moments in between the in-breath and out-breath, like that moment when you're not either breathing in or out. Is that what he's referring to, the whole body of the breath?
But I think it understand. No, firstly, especially when it say that when you experience the whole body, right? Look at the third one. Someone who learns when they experience the breath in the experiencing the whole body. This is the reason why I translate, I shall breathe out, experience the whole body. But what does it mean? That means either in-breath or out-breath in the body or the whole body. What does the whole body mean? I said that in the part of purification, which is really, I don't know how to say it. It's authentic, or I won't say authentic. It's like how generally the Pali adopt that. But of course, some people against it too in Pali. Don't kind of the official understanding.
Controversial.
No, not controversial. So
in America, it's controversial.
No. Actually, don't say America. Even Sri Lankan people, some they don't like it. They think it's wrong.
Yeah.
So don't.
Some Americans have different understanding.
No. So even some Sri Lankan, not only Sri Lankan, some monk they think that is wrong interpretation too. Not only. I just want to say, I'm not here to judge. Okay. I just want to say that the part of purification, understand the whole body means. He said it very clear. The whole body means the whole body of the breath. Okay.
English translation.
Yeah. We can understand from the Visuddhimagga. So.
Breath body.
Yeah.
Not physical.
Not physical. But the Chinese have mean the physical body also.
And many Americans interpret it as the physical body.
Yes.
We're doing breathing meditation and we breathe in. And you had mentioned something about it once before, like
Usually
sending oxygen to your entire body, like breathing in as the whole body is one.
I mean, I said the Chinese version, or actually, of course, like the Kumarajiva is very clear. He mentioned that what does it mean by the whole body? And then it means that when the breath and the whole body, and then you could feel the whole body like swelling, like a balloon. Sometimes even you could feel the whole body not only like a balloon, but also like a lotus root. You know, the lotus root have many holes right under the. That's how the Chinese.
Well, that's what I was gonna say when I.
The lotus root, and then they could feel all pose breathing.
Yes, it's porous.
So that's the
Oh,
pose.
porous.
No, I said they like the lotus root.
But it means in English we say porous.
Yeah.
They call porous?
The
Porous.
on the little holes, the little holes.
莲藕啊，
P-O-R-O-U-S.
我知道 pore. I know what's pores.
Porous.
I said it like a lotus root have many holes. It said clearly the lotus root. You know, Chinese. Yeah, they have many pores. Yeah.
I just want to sort of piggyback on.
Yes.
The gentleman with the black hat. And so when I do the meditation and when you're talking about the whole breath and I feel it coming
Yeah, I know
from the
that.
hands and the feet and the whole,
I-
almost the skin layer.
Yeah, I also have this experience. That's why I say I have no any objection in any version of saying, because to me they serve the same
But I
purpose.
consider the whole breath, the body of the breath. It's not the body itself, but the breath itself as.
No. I think this is the thing. Maybe sometimes don't just only believe in one version. I say it all works, but of course, to understand the whole breath, I did. Sometimes that's why I say it does. It's really hard to mention. Anyway, I just want to, because we study text now, right? And then we can talk about some experience, fine. But the text actually in Chinese generally understand as the whole body means the breath in the body. Okay, put it this way. But in the Pali, we don't know, of course, but we based on the part of purification, said it very clearly. The whole body here refer to the whole body of the breath. Okay, you understand now? Okay, then you might have question another interesting, but the Yogacara Bhumi, so 一切四谛论, understand the whole body as the whole body of the breath as well, but not the way as the Pali understand the in breath and out breath. The whole body of the breath, the Yogacara Bhumi, is understand as the long breath, short breath, because the long and short breath as the whole body. Okay. But then, if you look at the Pali, but they also sometimes some word that doesn't. Anyway, there's a lot of discussion on that. So leave that alone at the moment. So far you know. Okay. Why is it too complicated?
Yeah, but the next step is
Yes.
whole body.
Yeah, you just know.
Okay, so
What's the question?
so one of our online friends actually anytime submitted a questions on page 34. Quote, there is a body is virtually present in him. What does it mean, present in him? Present, yeah, present in him. Where's that?
There's a body.
That's towards
There's
the
a body.
end of
It's
the
virtually
paragraph.
present in him.
Oh yeah.
Or mindfulness that there is a body is virtually present in him.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the bottom third line.
Yeah, we haven't come to that point yet. Yeah.
For
I think we almost done the class anyway. So let me just check it. Okay, just let's roughly go to this first. So in this way, he contemplate the body with regard to the body either internally or externally, or internal, external, exchangeable. Okay. Am I right? Yes. And then he also observed the body, observing the body. In observing the body, I mean, it's kind of like a formula. So it's that contemplate the body, arising of the phenomena, and it's seeing also observing the ceasing of the phenomena. Means the arising of the Dhamma and the ceasing of the Dhamma. Or he abide contemplating the body, observing arising and ceasing. So it's not only just arising, but usually that's how we understand. When you understand that the arising of the Dhamma, first you know the arising, and later you will see the ceasing. But then you also see the arising and ceasing. Okay. So, or The mindfulness that there is a body is virtually presented in him. As far as for the purpose of knowledge and fully remembrance. Well, anyway, let's discuss a little more later. Generally means that you clearly know anything that presented to you this is a kind of like is a body. It's a collective. I understand it as a body as here as a collective now, as a body. So this is how he basically he would not. That's how that kind of stages or that kind of experience someone has that would let them to be truly know what it is, and then this is how he abandoned the craving, or something that attachment to the word. Okay, so basically this is how we understand as a bhikkhu advice contemplate the body with regards to the body. Now so far we know that when you do the comparative, we know actually the Chinese doesn't have this last few statements here, but the Pali they have the mindfulness of breathing to start with, and then they also mention this statement that then you start to see there's a arising of the Dhamma, ceasing of the Dhamma, and arising and ceasing of the Dhamma, either external, internal, or interchangeable. Okay, and then also when those things presented to you, kind of like become a knowledge aroused to you. So this is how you have abandoned, or basically not abandoned. This is how you don't cling to the word. So of course now it sounds a little mystical, but we can talk later. But so it's at least so far we know that it presents as mean how one can be not clinging to the word. It's that you have to be contemplate the body as the body in such a way. Okay, and we can discuss next class that what does it mean by how does it why is like that. But I myself, if I ask me, because there's a Chinese version, I think this statement put it there is a little bit too early for me. But you never know, because this statement put it here, it can, as I say, it depends really how you read to it. Does it have to go well step by step that they have to finish this mindfulness of breathing and then observe the internal, external, and external, internal, and then interchangeable, and then arising of the every Dhamma arising, Dhamma cease, and Dhamma arising and cease, and then you truly know, and then that's how you complete. And then you move on the second stage, the four posture, or not, you know. But you know that when you compare to Chinese version, we don't have this statement. Okay.
I think the Chinese version makes, to me, it's more organic. It goes from more gross to the more subtle. Because Chinese only mentions the fifth part, because Chinese it mentions the body first and then all the postures and stuff. But here they go directly to the more subtle. But the Agama makes more sense in terms of the way they put it from gross to more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
makes sense more to
yeah,
me.
I know. But that's this
more
is
common sense, but they all work, right? That's my understanding that it's postures, activities, counter, and also then forceful state, and then they introduce the breathing, whereas the Pali introduced breathing first. It's interesting, the difference.
I think we don't have a question, don't answer the question, but I think Simon is online.
Yeah.
Simon is online, right? But I think I think the question is basically, so I mean, just as we mentioned also your first question. I mean, if you observe the mind, so it can be jumped from one another. It's not that whether you want or not, but you have to know what you're doing. But if you want to observe the mind, just jump to one another. Like you say, you see it arises and observe it, then it goes away. Another thought, then you have to know that it's also arising of thought and the ceasing of the thought. That is also one way of practicing. If not, of course, because you know that you don't want to have doing this, because you might be want to practice in terms of more samadhi at the moment. But that's another big question again later. So and then you know that I don't want it, my mind jump, and then you must practice the method accordingly. In other words, if you can observe your mind jumping or not, when they arise, when it ceases, arise and cease, it still is a practice. Okay, as far as you are not confused. So, and then the second, I think. Yeah, observing, I guess, for the second question. So whether, I mean, there's no any one answer, I have to say, always. But just given the question here, you don't, it's, the second question is not necessarily equanimity, but you just have to observe it. You know, when you want to hear the song, you want to hear there's a song, or when you don't want to hear the song, if you know it, it's also a kind of observing, right? I think that when we read the text already, right, in the Chinese at least, so number 3 should be know the question, because the sensation, of course, sensation comes, you can focus on the sensations. So when it's a sensation, whether the agreeable sensation or not agreeable sensation, you can observe it too. When there's, or either whether there's a craving in the sensation, you can observe that too, right? But if you have a particular object to focus, but then because of, then if the sensation becomes disturbance, I don't know, that's why I say it depends on the situation, that you could just choose. Let's say I want to practice my mindfulness of breathing, I have to focus on my breath. And then you jump yourself to the sensation, then you are not focusing on the method you're practicing, right? So then that time you don't have to observe your sensation, for the time being at least, so that you can have a much more focused mind. So I guess that's a question. Right? That's the answer of that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we have a little break for next week. Very good. And we have class after next week. And please also again, when you go back, do a little bit reading, you know, of the differences of the, I guess, hopefully, this time we are a little bit slow, but hopefully we can finish by paying the attention to the elements and on the page 38, on the E part. So go back to read the 4 postures, okay? But all have the same thing. Later they have the same paragraph, right? We can jump to discuss the next paragraph, internal, external, interchangeable, and present to team on the next class, okay? After next week. From the 4 posture, that means page 34 to the 38, the IE, paying attention to elements. Yeah, okay. Whew, it looks like not easy job. Thank you so much anyway. Or you have any suggestion, please let me know, okay? Right, thank you. So support.
Akasata ca Bhummatta Deva Naga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakkantu Sasanang Chirang Rakkantu Desanang Chirang Rakkantu Mang Parang.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, thank you so much. Okay. So,